of Biocyclic Vegan Network. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for calling me.
So I just want to start by reading some press headlines where I learned about your organization first. So in The Guardian, rise of the vegan vegetable, the farmers who shun animal manure. Vegconomist has some great pieces on you. Biocyclic vegan agriculture, a background, organic farming the vegan way. Are vegetables vegan? The man taking aim at animal products in The Guardian. These are all articles that reference you. And the reason I wanted to talk with you is that Biocyclic Vegan Standard is the only such that I'm aware of, such a standard on the planet. So what you're doing is really cutting edge and important. And also the reality part of the commitment at Pacific Roots Magazine is helping raise awareness about the reality of vegan agriculture, that it exists. So what you're doing, I believe, is something that many of us did not even know was possible. So I would love to hear more about what you're doing. You're in Cyprus right now.
Yes. I'm in Cyprus. This is the head office of the International Administrative Unit of Biocyclic Vegan Agriculture. So BNS is considered to be the administrative center of all activities which has to do with the development and with the promotion of biocyclic vegan projects worldwide. So this had to do with the fact that the Biocyclic Vegan Standard has been developed many years ago, more or less by one of the pioneers of organic farming in northern Germany. His name is Adolf Hobbs, and Adolf Hobbs never had any animal husbandry on his farm. He started gardening and farming in 1953. So this was a period where even the word vegan was not available, at least in the German-speaking countries. And so he didn't use this term at all, but he never had animals on his farm. He never used animal manure for growing vegetables and other crops. And I was very happy to get to know him in 1982 when he held a speech in front of farmers and gardeners who were interested in organic farming. So he was introducing to these people organic farming practices in a way as he did. So it was already biocyclic vegan. So the first part of the term biocyclic vegan had to be born when I got to know him, because he was always talking about the creation and the maintenance of natural cycles of organic matter and of nutrients. So I told him that this could be expressed, the sentence could be expressed by a Greek word, which is biocyclic. Bios is the Greek word for life, and kyklos is the word for cycle. So even in the 1980s, we started to use the term biocyclic by meaning giving giving evidence to the fact that we have to recycle everything which is produced on a field, has to come back to the field, and we have to create this cycle of nutrients in a clean way, in a manner which is not influenced by any poisonous surroundings or so. Then personally, I went to Greece together with my family in 1995, and the idea, we call it the biocyclic idea, we transferred this idea to Greece. And I asked Adolf Hobbes if he would be able to come with me to Greece to prove if his findings and his experiences can be repeated under the circumstances of Greek agriculture, of Mediterranean agriculture. And he immediately said, yes, I will do that. So he came with seedlings, with fertile soil, with some seeds which he knew to grow. So, and he said, I don't want to introduce now German seeds in Greece, but I know how the plants behave. And I can interpret very much easier the behavior of these plants when I see how they grow in Greece. So very, very quickly, to make it short, very, very quickly, we realized that his method can be used not only in German agriculture, but worldwide. And it was even working better in Greece than he had experienced in Germany. So this was the starting point where this central idea of creating cycles came to Greece. And in the meantime, we developed this idea. We developed the first step of a standard in Greece. And this is the reason why now Cyprus is the head office of the Biocyclic Vegan Standard. So it's just to tell you the history which is behind that.
Right, it's very interesting. I want to mention what happened before our chat, that we were a little delayed because you had a farm calling you to get, they were interested in accreditation or the standard. So
yes.
I would love to hear about, you are working with farms all over, well, not just Greece and Germany, but
yes.
worldwide.
Yes.
So how
has
the reception grown and the interest of farms is developing from particular regions?
Yes, so there are, I can say that the awareness of making a step towards a real sustainable and new form of organic agriculture is growing day by day. We are receiving daily requests from farmers and from companies which are producing, or they are processing products from those farms. They want to be certified against the Biocyclic Vegan Standard. So this is a very encouraging development. What we need on the other side is the growing awareness on the side of the consumers and the traders, that they have to realize that just to consume a vegan product doesn't mean that this product has been cultivated according to vegan criteria. And there is another article, I don't know if you saw it. Oh yeah, I think you mentioned it, by organicglobal.com, naturalglobal.com, which has the title, "Is 2020 the breakthrough of organic agriculture?" So this breakthrough can be done very easily if there is an awareness among the consumers. So this is a main point. I can say that many producers came to the conclusion that they have to switch to Biocyclic Vegan by themselves, even years ago, because they had some experiences with either with animal manure or with other agricultural inputs produced from animal residues, like, for example, bone meal, blood meal, or horn, and so on. So, and for example, there was one farmer in Germany. He found that his organic fertilizer was smelling like tires from cars, and he was wondering how it comes, this terrible smell. So he realized that this is produced in India, and they were burning these parts from the slaughterings they were burning on the fuel were the tires. So he said, okay, this is unacceptable for me as an organic farmer to get this byproduct on my fields, right, which is contaminated, excuse me, yeah. And also it's coming from animal, so which were suffering. So he said, I stopped that and I just look for inputs from plant-based inputs. And then he found the standard and said, okay, this is what I wanted to do all the years and I'm doing already, so I want to be certified. This is so it's really, really nice to live that there are people who are thinking in depth what is going on and they come to the same conclusions.
And then they come to the same conclusions and then find that there's a global standard that now exists, which is
yes. So they have the possibility to document towards the audience, towards their customers, that I'm doing something different from the rest. I differentiate my production scheme from those of my labors or from other origins. So it is necessary because first of all, it's a mind setting to realize that we don't need animals in agriculture in order to have a fertile soil, in order to have a high quality product. So this is the first step. So of course, this step means that he has to care for several other items and topics which an organic farmer normally doesn't think about. So there is a greater effort to do in order to produce biocyclic vegan products. So this has to be recognized by the consumers. And this is only possible by having a label which is visible on the product, and behind this label there is a certification system. So this is so essential that these producers have to undergo a certification process in order to document against others that they have a special quality.
I think this is so important that you are talking about both the producers deciding on their own they are finding certain things unacceptable in the process, and then also that it's important for consumers to be aware, and especially within the vegan movement, many of us don't consider how were the vegetables grown. It's something so simple as that. It's very funny.
It has to make click.
It's really funny. So that's why when I set up Pacific Roots Magazine, I said I'm going to be dedicated to being part of the increasing of awareness of the reality of vegan farming, that it is possible to grow healthy, vibrant produce without animal inputs. That's very important. Just even seeing pictures of veganically, some people have never held a vegetable that was veganically grown. Now possible.
So it's the fact is that it's not only possible to grow without animal inputs, but it's even better because you just have to think on a global base. You use animal byproducts. This means that it's just a byproduct, and the rest of the energy, the rest of the water, the area which is used to grow the fodder for the animals. So it's a huge how do you say this in English? It's a huge use of resources you need in order to get the byproduct which you think you need on the field. So all these inputs an animal needs can be put directly to the soil. Exactly. Or directly for as a raw material for composting. And so we are closing the cycle of nutrients much more efficiently than by using animals as part of the agricultural production system. And this is exactly the opposite of what people normally think. They think it's always going from the plant to the animal and from the animal to the field, but it's just a bypass which is not necessary. And even nature tells us that it's not necessary. There is no plant system, plant growing system, which is really dependent on the existence of animals. We are not talking about the microbes and the animals in the earth, in the soil, but we are talking about ruminants or bigger animals. So, on the other hand, all animals depend on plants. So this shows us which is the first and the most efficient way is just to grow plants with the power of plants.
Well, and all of that relates to, you have on your website, obviously listeners will probably be interested in going to your website, I believe it's 8 biocyclic veganic agriculture is good for, and then there's 8 points.
Yes.
Climate, water, soil, biodiversity, health, animals, global food security, and smallholder farms. I remember I had a question written down for you that, do you think any of these are a more pressing issue this decade? Of course, they're all intertwined. But for example, global food security. I mean, we have so many issues with
Yes.
food security, and the idea that growing veganically and even eating more plant-based, it's becoming more, the UN put out the message, I think it was last year, we need to eat, please focus on less meat, less dairy. That came from the UN. So awareness is really picking up steam, but can you address the global food security aspect as well?
Yes, of course. It is, maybe you didn't expect my answer, but the only way to secure on a middle term base food security for maybe 9 billion people, no problem. There is enough potential on this planet to feed everybody. And if we would shift on a global base to organic or biocyclic vegan agriculture, it would be even easier to reach the goal. Because so this sounds a little bit strange what I will tell you now, but we have already the first indications, and very strong indications, that by using compost on a large scale for producing agricultural crops and vegetables, we can increase yields per acre up to double. And this is not too much what I say, because there are already research has been done at the Agricultural University in Athens, which proved that industrial tomatoes and sweet potatoes, which are demanding cultivations, doubled their yield by being planted in what we call biocyclic humus soil. So this is a special category of compost. It's not comparable with what we normally call compost. Compost is a very good substrate which has to be used as much as possible in agriculture, and it's just giving some input of nutrients, and it's giving some other physical characteristics of soil improvement. But when you when you continue to produce compost, and you ripe it even for some years, then you receive a product which is almost unknown, but it exists everywhere on Earth, but in very small quantities, so it has not been observed up to now. And this is a completely carbon stabilized form of organic matter. And this carbon stabilization within this product leads to completely different characteristics of the product. So we cannot compare anymore compost with humus soil, but humus soil is produced out of compost. So during the time, and this is the very interesting point, and it is subject to scientific research at the moment, which are the circumstances under which we can influence or maybe increase the speed where this process is going on, from humus from compost to humus soil. One of the most striking characteristics of humus soil is that it is very, very rich in nutrients, but these nutritional elements are not water soluble anymore. So this means a tremendous advantage against every kind of fertilization, because one of the main problems we face in fertilization is that a big part of the nutrients are washed out by water or are blown into the air and cannot be used by the plants. In humus soil, we have a storage of nutrients in a way which cannot be washed out anymore by the water. So now maybe somebody would ask, yes, okay, you have a nutrient-rich substrate, but can the plant get out the nutrients from that? And something which nobody did expect is that the plant is able to absorb the nutrients, and very, very easily. But it's a completely different way of absorbing the nutrients in a substrate which is free of water-soluble elements in comparison what is done in agriculture as we know it up to now, where we use water-soluble fertilizers. All so-called chemical fertilizers are water-soluble, are salts. When you use manure or compost, even then you have a big portion of nutrients which are water soluble, and normally the ability of a fertilizer, when it's characterized as a good fertilizer, it's how quick the plant can absorb the nutrients. So nobody would have expected that in humus soil it is possible to get immediate results. So what happens is that all plants on our earth have the ability to absorb actively nutrients from their surroundings without the help of water. All plants on our earth are have specialized mechanisms to absorb the water, but they cannot select what is in the water. So the plant just absorbs whatever is solved in the water. And this is the mechanism why chemical fertilizing works, because the fertilizer which are used in the soil, they are water soluble. So together with the water, the plant can absorb part of them into the tissue. So in humus soil, the water absorption is a different thing, and the absorption of nutrients is a different thing. And this leads to a boost in development. When you see plants which are growing in humus soil, you will recognize that it is a totally different appearance. It's growing quicker, it's growing bigger, but it does not look like an over-fertilized plant. It's looking like a natural plant, but just one dimension bigger. Just cauliflower is like that. Red beans are like that. So somebody wouldn't believe that it's even organic. So this is what I say when you ask me for the feeding the world. The potential is great, and even by producing huge amounts of humus soil, I can imagine that something like urban farming will contribute to a big amount to the problem of food security. When you just imagine the big cities, the mega cities in many parts of the world, and when you consider the surface of roofs or houses or gardens, so there is a big potential. And when you have such a substrate like humus soil, which can be produced everywhere in the world, you can give to those people who want to grow their own vegetables the substrate, and you can solve problems. But even in normal agriculture, when you use this, it is this is the main task for the future. And we are far away from this goal, because the only thing we know is that it needs time, and we have to investigate the mechanisms which lead to a controlled ripening process at the end of which we get this product which is called humus soil. This is the challenge for the future, for the next 10 years.
Challenge for the next 10 years, yes. So based on what you're saying, if I understand correctly, use of humus soil is also a more cost-effective and space-effective way of growing vegetables.
Yes, it is because you really don't have to care about fertilizing, because the plant by itself gets out the nutrients. You can put a seed, or you can put a seedling or a young plant or a tree into this material. And according to the stage of development, the plant will absorb exactly those nutrients which it needs for the specific stage. This is not possible to imitate technically. So one way to imitate it is not to imitate, but to very specifically add fertilizer is the aquaculture, which is exactly the opposite of our approach. So there all nutrients are solved in the water, and the plants are forced to absorb. So the fertilizing process is done technically and can never be exactly as the plant really wants, because we see now that the plant, which is able to select by itself the nutrients which are available in the surrounding, and just taking according to its development stage what it needs, it is growing differently, and it's growing better. So it uses a higher part of the genetical potential which it bears in its DNA. So maybe according to a good fertilization plan, you can just, this number is not scientific now, I just say as an example, maybe 60% of the genetical potential you can use by a good fertilizing program. By using humus soil, you can increase this percentage up to maybe 84 or 90%. So you come really to something you have never seen before. So it sounds a little bit strange, but it's really how we can revolutionize agricultural production. And now maybe you understand why the chapters which deal with the production and the use of humus soil are of central importance in the Biocyclic Vegan Standard. It is not a precondition, because it's really a very rare material at the moment. We have a compost plant in Kalamata in southern Greece, where we produce this material for years now, and therefore I speak by my own experience when I talk to this about these things. But it's just a very small point of the world. So we have to create a network of producing units, of production units, of which are able to produce what we call humus soil.
Do you foresee where, over the next decade, for example, where this network of plants will be developed? I mean, you have farms that are coming forward saying we want to be certified with this standard. So is the interest also developing for plants which can produce the humus soil?
I didn't understand exactly your question. Can you read it?
So you obviously have many farms that have come forward and want to go through the process of certification, and now you have one plant in Cyprus that's producing the humus.
In Greece, it's not in Cyprus, it's in Greece. So yes.
The important thing will be to, as you mentioned, see a network of plants worldwide.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So there's some trickle of
because you have to use big quantities, so it's completely uneconomic to transport this material very far. So there has to be a local supply of this material, of this substrate, and there are already in Germany there is a company which has several compost plants over the country, and they have understood what is going on, and they have already prepared a portion of their compost production, which is just plant-based, and now they're in the ripening process to obtain biocyclic humus soil. So this will come, and but it's difficult. It's difficult, and because a commercial compost plant tries to produce very quickly the compost. It's just an economic term that you have a quick turnover, because it's expensive to have the area and the machinery working, and so for the production of compost. So therefore, you won't find any quantities of humus soil in normal compost plants, because the material is just too unripe in order to obtain these characteristics which we were talking about. So we have really to create new plants, or we have to create incentives for commercial compost plants, because of course it costs more, of course it takes more time. And this could be addressed to politics, to a legal framework. It said we have to create a legal framework to give incentives and to give how's it called, permits. At the moment, the production of compost is so restricted in some countries. Even in Germany, some federal states have a different legislation about compost production. The most flexible and the most, I think, most modern system of compost production is in Austria, where they allow to producers, to farmers, to produce compost on their fields, even on behalf of communities, of municipalities, and it can be done on a local farm level, which is revolutionary, comparing it with the legislation in Germany where this is forbidden. So this is really, we have to work a lot also on this level in order to get the thing running. And of course you can understand that it's, maybe there are some obstacles which will be very difficult to overcome,
right.
In persuading some authorities to do that.
Right. Well, we will be closing out this chat soon, but I just want to wrap up on that note. That was my question about, you just answered it, what needs to happen for a more robust global and growth of a global network of these plants producing it. And I like, as I mentioned earlier, how you sort of addressed the producer side, but also the consumer side. And I think growing awareness too on the consumer level about this, and especially as you mentioned, urban farming having the potential to contribute so much to food security. I mean, people really taking this down to a community level, and then knowing the effectiveness of this technique too could be, as you mentioned, revolutionary.
And if you consider that having this humus soil on a pot or wherever you want to grow, either in a greenhouse or in an open air field or on the roof of in a city, right, you don't have to care about nutrition. You just have to put the seed into this material, into the substrate, and to pour water, mm-hmm, and to grow it and to harvest. Not forget to harvest. This is right, the other thing. And even on plant health issues, there is a positive effect. A plant which is growing in an environment which offers all what it needs, feels better, has a better immune system, and can cope much easier with any kind of diseases. What we cannot influence very easily are pests which are caused by animals, by insects, because they are coming from outside the system. They are not produced by the plant itself. So the plant can create mechanisms to protect itself against fungi very easily. In plants which are grown in biocyclic humus soil, more or less we don't observe any heavy fungi infections. but we are not protected against insects. So
Right.
this is the only thing the grower has to care about, to protect the plants against a damage of the insects. And this is also an issue which comes to another very essential part of the Biocyclic Vegan Standard. This has to do with biodiversity. When we have massive insect infestation, that means that there is something like a balance, it's not working anymore. So unfortunately, normally these the factors that create these adverse conditions cannot be influenced by a single farmer. You can help to introduce a big biodiversity. You can help to that you get birds nesting in your fields, in your trees, and so this is something very, very essential, and we give emphasis on that. But this should be done on a local, on a regional level, in order to have really a protection against such unbalanced developments. But this is another task for the future, to create an ecologic network which allows for all kinds of antagonists to be active, because we won't have never a surrounding where we don't have insects. And some of these insects are really destroying our cultivations. We have to know that. But these insects have also, or these animals have predators and natural enemies. So we have to create the overall conditions that there is a balance. This will give us the best protection. Of course, an organic farmer and even a biocyclic vegan farmer has to protect himself against these kind of therefore we have introduced what we call the green list, which is a list of agricultural inputs officially allowed for organic farming, but selected by biocyclic vegan criteria. So they have to be 100% plant-based. They have to be selective, not to interfere with a big with a total of animals or so. That's just if you have a special problem that is very, very restricted. It should be just help you for the single problem and not to destroy other animals or so. So it's a bit. It was good now with this sentence. Maybe you can find a better expression, but you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have to use what is possible. Biocyclic vegan agriculture means also a high standard of technological knowledge. So whatever has been developed in the last decades is useful to the knowledge we have gained about the interactions between several species is one thing. Another thing is that we do not use at the moment, in a way as it should be, the mechanisms which can improve all these conditions of agricultural production by using mixed cultures. So using mixed culture systems is a tremendous way to overcome a lot of plant protection issues. And even in organic farming, we do not use this. And therefore, in the Biocyclic Vegan Standard, we have another emphasis on mixed cultures, which is, you can say this has to do with biodiversity. As we want to increase biodiversity in the natural surrounding, we have to increase biodiversity also in our fields. And this is done by mixed cultures. Even in a greenhouse, you can cultivate at the same time 5 to 10 different plants, different cultivations. And there you create conditions completely different what we are used now. And you can reduce costs for pesticides, insecticides, and so on.
Can you also touch on the 8 principles? Also mention that with organic agriculture is good for the climate aspect.
The climate aspect, yes.
Yeah.
Very, very essential. And I think at the moment the climate discussion, at least in Europe and America, is on a very, very high awareness. So it's an immediate effect on that, because first of all, one of the very essential factors which cause the climate change, or which increase the climate change impact, let's say, are the so-called greenhouse gases. And these greenhouse gases are a big proportion, I don't remember exactly the number, but I think it's 30%, is produced by ruminants. So cows, sheep, and goats are causing most of these greenhouse gases, which are much more harmful than the so-called CO2. Carbon dioxide is a very small part of the greenhouse gases. And we have to be careful when we are talking about CO2 as a bad thing. Scientifically spoken, the reduction of CO2 is not the reduction of CO2, but the reduction of CO2 equivalents. So the greenhouse gases are are calculated in CO2 equivalents. And this is really misleading the opinion of the people, but just talking about CO2, because CO2 is necessary for plant growing. It's a natural gas in our atmosphere, and it's mainly produced by the oceans by completely natural procedures. So a certain part of the CO2 in the atmosphere is released by man, and the biggest part is released by natural organisms. So we just have to be careful. But now we come back to the topic of humus soil. By creating humus soil, we bind the CO2, which was formerly in the atmosphere. Afterwards, it was bound in the organic matter of plants, and by producing plant-based compost, and by transferring this compost into a carbon-stabilized phase in the form of humus soil, we bind this carbon dioxide in the soil. And not just for 1 year or 2 years, which could be able also by using just a compost, a common compost. Also, it's a kind of CO2 storage. But using humus soil, you bind it for decades, because it cannot degrade anymore. The process has stopped on a micromolecular level, and cannot be. It cannot be. How can I say this? The decomposition of the carbon complexes does not lead anymore to a release of CO2. This has stopped in humus soil. So you really have a long-lasting deposit of CO2 by using this substrate. So you can imagine, when we come to a global use of this humus soil, we can really have a positive impact on the climate. And by reducing animal production, we have an immediate impact on the amount of greenhouse gases. And by using humus soil, by producing humus soil, we have an impact of reducing the CO2. So it's in both senses, we give a solution. Within agriculture, we can give a solution for the problem, and we are not up to now. Agriculture is one of the causes, one of the reasons why we have these impacts in climate change. Now we can turn agriculture into part of the solution and not part of the problem. And another thing I forgot to tell you is that yes, I just lost my answer. So it will come with the next question, I'm sure.
Well, I'm wrapping up with some questions now. I mean, it's fascinating to listen to you. I'm learning so much, and that's part of the reason I established the platform I did. It was partly to learn, to meet with experts in their own fields and listen and share that on a larger platform. So I think this is incredibly important, and it's not hard to get excited listening to you talk about humus soil. I'm excited to go read on now myself about it and to research further. And you put it's important planet wide, and so for anybody, people having rooftop gardens or in apartments. I live in an apartment, balcony gardens, from all the way from this micro level to producers. It's like change has to happen at every level, and you have a fascinating and very promising solution. So I'm really excited to. I would like to learn more, so much more. Maybe we'll do another chat later this year about the various farms that have worldwide also who have now the Biocyclic Vegan Standard. Maybe we can kind of end on that note. How many farms approximately, or what regions are many of these farms located?
It's difficult to tell you the number of them at the moment because the certification process just started some months ago.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea of the potential is that 30% of the organic farms in Germany are already without animal husbandry.
Okay, well, that seems
some of them use animal manure from other neighbors.
Right.
The potential for them to just say, okay, we don't need the manure, we can just step into the certification system and not using any animal inputs is very, very easy. So on the other hand, we realize that everywhere, either in Austria or in France or in Holland or in Germany, the first producers which have been certified have already adopted in some way the principles of biocyclic vegan farming. So probably there are a lot of farmers in the world which do the same, but we didn't know it up to now, and they didn't know about us. So of your tasks could be to bring this knowledge together, that there is a standard you can be certified, and here are the producers which already thought about this and came to the same conclusions. And even if it is, in some cases, you can imagine that they are more or less plant-based, but there are some points of the production process where they still are they still depend on some animal inputs. So this is easy to change then. If the main production process is plant-based, then it's just to abandon the one or the other thing, and they can be certified. And by getting certified, they get the awareness, they get the audience among the consumers, which they need.
Exactly.
Otherwise, therefore, also there are some initiatives that say, okay, we are planting for our consumers. There are some how is it called in English? It's community-based agriculture.
Oh, right. Is it CSA?
Community supported agriculture.
Right.
So these are very interesting schemes, and some of them I know that they are already growing without animal inputs. They don't have animal husbandry.
Right.
So, but in order to documentate this for in their cities, among their customers, their consumers, they should have a certification. Otherwise, they just have to tell, okay, yes, our consumers know that, yes, but if you do that, check it by somebody, by a third party, so that you can document, okay, I don't just tell it, but I do it, and I can be checked against that.
I think one of the interesting things about your work, I imagine, especially locally there in Cyprus, is you have the ability to also check in with farms and see the development over time.
Yes.
After they are certified, so you can really see the change.
Yeah. Yes, it is. The thing is that we have solutions for problems which part of them has not even recognized as a problem.
Right.
So we have really to do two steps together, and by solving a problem, for example, an organic, a biocyclic vegan farm, which does not use any kind of fertilizers of animal origin anymore, has less problems with some soil-borne diseases, so-called, because by using animal byproducts in a way as it was done up to now, we increase the danger of some unbalanced developments of microbes and so on. Even if you think about the aspect of the health aspect, of the hygiene aspect, when you are growing vegetables, and you know these vegetables have never come into connection with manure, which is poisonous for people, for the human organism. You cannot eat when you have put your hands into manure. It's not allowed to eat. You have to wash your hands. Right. When you put your hands into humus soil, you can eat the bread without washing your hands. So it's a hygiene aspect also. Yeah. Then it's a health aspect when you think about the antibiotica, which are used in animal husbandry, and it is proven that they occur in manure. They are not destroyed in the manure. And now, latest findings proved that active antibiotica can be found even in plants which have been fertilized with animal manure. So the cycle, which is the health, human health, is so connected to what is going on in the soil, much more as we think about. This is another aspect. And I think that I forgot something for the climate aspect to tell you, but yeah, another aspect it has to do with the climate is water quality. Very many regions of the world are affected by agricultural production regarding water quality, drinking water quality, because of nitrates and other fertilizers which have been leached from the soil and has gone to the underground water, and from there it's used for drinking water. And many regions have a very severe problem of, even in the Central Europe, it's difficult to have groundwater in drinking quality anymore. So, and the main cause is agriculture, is conventional agriculture. So by using humus soil, where is there is no leaching anymore of neutral elements. You have also a guarantee that you will not ever pollute the underground water. So another aspect, very essential.
Well, I wish you could see all the notes I've been taking listening to you. This will be really, I'm very interested to learn more, to hopefully host you again, to learn more about Biocyclic Vegan Network, to see that growth over time, and to share this as well. So
Thank you very much. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for your time, and we will be sharing this very soon, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you exist with the work that you're doing.
Thank you very much, and I'm really very happy that that you contacted me, because you share a big portion of responsibility as a journalist, as an editor of a magazine, to disseminate our experiences, these findings, and to help, to help getting the message. Because when you once you have understood what is going on and how plants grow on this surface on our planet, you just imagine what a small part of the surface of our planet is soil. Oh, now I remember what I wanted to tell you. Excuse me. Do you have another 2 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's a number very easy to understand. Climate change, CO2. Just imagine 10% of the agriculturally used surface of the world. Only 10%. And we want to increase the humus content. So this is the content of organic matter in the soil in a depth of 25 centimeters. That is the depth where it is measured. So the task is to increase the content of organic matter at 0.5%. Normally, a fertile soil is considered to have 5% of organic matter. Most of the soils of the world have between 0.2 or 0.5 and 1.0. So very, very low content of organic matter. One of the main issues of agricultural production in the future is to increase the percentage of organic matter in the soil. So we just want to increase by 0.5%. Which does that mean? That means that by increasing at 10% of the agricultural land, increasing by 0.5%, we can absorb 70% of the CO2 which has been produced by men, by human activities. 70%, only at 10% of the agricultural land. So you can imagine that doing this with the rest of the land, we really can absorb whatever CO2 is produced by non-natural sources, activities. So, and what does that mean, this 0.5? This is a very theoretical number. You can very easily imagine a square meter in your garden, and you just need 5 liters of compost. This is nothing. When you pour the 5 liters on a square meter, which is 1 meter, you have half a centimeter, a layer of half centimeter thick layer of compost. Or when you plant on 1 square meter 5 tomato plants, you just have to dig 5 holes for the plants and to pour in every hole 1 liter of compost. It's really a manageable quantity. And by doing that, you help to reduce the CO2 from the air into the soil. It's a nice number, because everybody can understand that it is not impossible to save the planet. We just have to understand what happens and to do the right decisions. And one of the everyday decisions is, what do I eat and what do I buy? And this is a decision everybody has.
Right.
This is the power of consumers.
Power of consumer, exactly. And for that space you mentioned, I don't know if that's per household, the square meter. I mean, if we look at it sort of on average, even urban dwellers, like I live in the middle of a city, but if you were to utilize community garden spaces, collectively, so combine those meters or balconies for those who have balconies, as you mentioned, rooftops. I mean, there's a lot of space for this. I get very excited looking at city gardening movements.
Yeah.
And I look forward to connecting more with them. Yes, exactly. And I absolutely will love to share this information everywhere, because I think a lot of gardening movements will be very interested in this. Obviously, some already know about it, but bringing this, I'm very committed to also helping bring this knowledge to mainstream.
Yep.
That's great. I'm glad you remembered the number. There is a reason why we haven't closed the chat yet. That the 1 meter aspect, 1 square meter aspect was waiting to come out. What describes exactly. So we are at an hour, so I'm going to close out, and with the hope that we can return for a chat, perhaps later this year. Perhaps also we should mention your website. Of course, I'll also put it in captions.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Biocyclic. Are there any dots? Can you read your website?
It's the most international website for where you can read it in English and in French and German is www.biocyclic-vegan.org. And another one, which is related to what we do here in Greece, but it contains also very general information, is www.biocyclic-network.net. And our site at Facebook, Biocyclic, it's called Panhellenic Biocyclic Vegan Network. Also a nice source of some more up-to-date information.
Okay. Well, Johannes, thank you so much for your time. If you want to hold on one moment, I'm going to say thank you and pause the recording, and then.
Thank you also for your time and for your interest.
Thank you.
You showed me for this.